connect with this family, find out exactly what's going on, and
I heard about a family of 8 in Southern California and what happened when their utility, LADWP, installed a smart meter on their home.
I'm very sensitive, so I could not get out of bed. I felt lots of embarrassing symptoms as well as migraines, insomnia, just not being able to really properly be a parent for my children. So I could not agree to that kind of meter ever. Fast forward to me going ahead and putting in a safe analog meter. Once I put on the new meter that's on the property now, that improved. And them sending someone out here to, I guess, come on the property and to remove it. I was not here. I was at work and speaking to LAWP over the phone, and them basically saying, you know, hey, you're trying to steal power and we're going to cut your power off.
It's a shame when your water, your electricity, all these things that you think are necessities are controlled by other systems, and I mean, flip of a switch, you don't have water, you don't have heat.
I got a copy of their rules. Rule 16 clearly states on the electricity section that a homeowner can provide their own meter to the house as long as you allow WP to own it. They have to come out and check it. When I asked Mr. Willer from LAWP to come out and check it, he told me he wasn't going to check it. He was going to terminate my power. And I said, but once again, I'm letting you know, you can come to my house and check the meter that's installed if there's a question regarding safety. He said no, over and over again. They said it was unsafe and never ever looked at the meter.
Miss Lawson?
Our power was cut off on February 11th, 2013, and we have not had power in 7 weeks. And because they installed that radio frequency meter on our property, my sisters had fevers of over, excuse me, over 102 Fahrenheit, and they kept on going up. This is not normal. This should not be tolerated.
Okay, I want a high-level person from DWP to connect with this family, find out exactly what's going on, and let's fix it immediately.
Unfortunately, when I complained about the smart meter put on our property, I was told there was no smart meter on our property. It's a radio frequency meter. When I began to express to LWP the health concerns that came out of nowhere, they told me that I was making it up. It didn't make any sense. My husband and I had numerous people come to our house and explain to us that it must be something else in your home. So I began writing to the general manager, Mr. Nichols. He ignored my emails. So for months and months and months, I have begged DWP to please take this off of our property. And we have had no power for 7 weeks and 1 day. Easter for our children was horrible.
Okay, thank you. We'll get to the bottom of that today. I want somebody on the phone right now. Is anybody here from DWP?
Looks like Tom's on the phone right now.
And Mr. Buscaino, I'm on this, so I will, one way or the other, find out what's going on with the Lawson family. I'll find out today.
So the very next day after the city council meeting, our power was turned on. DWP came to the house. So we've had power since April 1st, 2013.
Right. And I mean, how does it feel to take a stand and then to ultimately for the situation to be corrected?
Well, it feels great to actually go out there and sit and fight for what you believe in, and not just sit on the sidelines and say, oh, well, this is happening, there's nothing I can do about it, but just actually know that you can do something about it and that you can't give up. Just always fight for what you believe in.
In May of 2011, the World Health Organization classified radio frequency radiation as a Class 2B potential cancer-causing carcinogen. The utility companies will tell us that the meters are only on for 45 or 60 seconds a day and that they're safe. So the next stop on my journey to verify the facts was with Dr. David Carpenter, a Harvard-trained researcher at the University of Albany, New York.
Under court order, Pacific Gas and Electric admitted that their smart meters generate 14,000 spikes of communication per day. The utilities have often held that smart meters are not a problem because they communicate with the utility rather infrequently, maybe a couple of times an hour. That doesn't matter how frequently they communicate to the utility. What matters is how frequently do they generate radio frequency fields. And clearly the utilities have been hiding the fact that these smart meters generate these radio frequency fields almost continuously. They're pulses, but they're very, very frequent.
So according to PG&E's court documentation, the average smart meter is on for 45 or 60 seconds a day, but they've conveniently withheld from us that these 45 or 60 seconds are split up into 10,000 or more pulses, each at about 4.5 milliseconds in duration, emitting all the time, every few seconds, 24/7. And some meters are up to 190,000 pulses per day.
So this is a smart meter bank. It's inside a Northwest DC condominium building, and there's 32 different smart meters inside this building. So what I did was I brought in a meter that measures the levels of radio frequency radiation, and what I'm finding is that these smart meters are emitting radiation every few seconds. But Pepco says smart meter communications take place every 4 to 6 hours. So I brought these findings to Pepco spokesman Marcus Beal, who said,
I can't account for a test that there are a lot of variables involved that we can't account for with a test that we're not present at. But, we're confident in the specs of our meters and the safeness of the meters at this point.
So I asked Pepco if we could go out with their experts to do their own test. They told me they would look into it. And just to be clear, we're not saying whether or not this radiation is dangerous. That's up to the scientists, and it is currently the subject of a very heated debate.
The definition of a smart grid is a wireless system that will fundamentally turn every single appliance in your home into the equivalent of a transmitting cell phone. That's every computer, every television, every furnace, every air conditioner, every coffee machine, every printer, every single appliance that you have in your house will eventually, in a smart grid, have an antenna that's embedded into it that will transmit your usage data to a smart meter on the outside of your home that will then transmit your usage data to another tower receiving that usage signal that will then go to the utility company for supposedly billing purposes. Not all signals will just be about your individual use. There will be aggregate meters that will bounce signal from house to house to house within a neighborhood that will then accumulate all of the usage data that will transmit that to the utility company. Now, what that will do is that the end metering system that is transmitting all of that data will be firing an RF signal at many, many times a second, which will increase the average homeowner's radio frequency radiation exposure exponentially.
This picture shows some aphids on the leaf of an orange tree shortly after radar equipment was installed at a nearby airport a number of years ago. I noticed that every few seconds all the aphids would tense up in unison and do sort of a little dance, as you see in the picture. Upon further investigation, I found that the interval of time between the activity of each dance coincided exactly with the rotation of the radar rotor device at the airport, which was a distance of approximately 14 miles.
And we now have vast amounts of published science on microwave radiation and health effects. The data we're going to look at are all published science, testing results, or public standards. At the bottom end of the radiation scale of what's called power density or signal strength is the minimum level at which cell phones will work, which was found to be 0.2 billionths of a microwatt per centimeter squared. Pine needles were found to age prematurely at 0.000027. At short-term exposures of 0.5, children aged 8 to 17 experienced headache, irritation, concentration difficulties, and behavioral problems. Point 1 is the Baubiology or Building Biology Guideline for extreme concern. 1.0 produced sperm DNA fragmentation and a decrease in sperm viability in vitro. Also at 1.0, the science shows the following bodily effects can occur: headaches, dizziness, fatigue, insomnia, chest pain, difficulty breathing, and indigestion. 2.5 saw altered calcium metabolism in heart muscle cells. 4.0, changes in the hippocampus affecting brain memory and learning. And at 6.0, DNA damage in cells. So, where are smart meters on this list? Electrical Power Institute in December 2010 measured a single Itron smart meter with pulses up to 7.93 microwatts per centimeter squared. Our own testing indicated approximately 8.0 with 1 meter. These tests are at a close distance, approximately 1 foot away from the meter, but an infant's crib could be just as close on the other side of the wall where the meter or bank of meters are installed. Even though there are all these known health effects at levels far lower, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Luxembourg see fit to set the standard at 9.5. And China, Poland, and Russia, 10.0. This is the same level at which behavior has been altered, producing reflexes of avoidance following 30-minute exposures. A room of 12 smart meters, very common and even a conservative number in an apartment building, tested at 19.8 microwatts per centimeter squared. This is hundreds of times higher than levels which clearly indicate harmful effects. So how can utilities and governments get away with forcing these devices on everyone? This is how. In Canada and the US and several other civilized countries, the safety limit is set at 600 to 1,000 microwatts per centimeter squared. This so-called safety limit is literally tens of thousands of times higher than levels which are known to damage health, according to peer-reviewed published science. It's actually based on research from the 1960s that looked at thermal effects. Mm-hmm. So literally they had this dummy head, right? So think of this, like in the car accident commercials where you have this dummy head, yes, and it's filled with like a fluid. Mm-hmm. And the fluid has to go up by 1 full degree in order for something to be deemed unsafe. So what Health Canada is saying is that you have to cook the cells before any negative effects can happen. And that's of course absurd. We know that with so much other research.
There was an organization called the Committee on Man and Radiation. Essentially, the Committee on Man and Radiation intellectually framed this as a controversy that there was no such thing as a non-thermal effect. That thermal effects were the only good science, and they had good science on their side, and anyone who said otherwise was either a crank or needed to be dismissed from the area altogether.
One website in Central California has posted more than 300 letters received from those suffering functional impairments since having their meter, quote, upgraded. The one thing all these people had in common? Their utility did not tell them the dangers associated with the new meter.
Our concern is that smart meters add to this multiple source exposure to radiofrequency radiation. Radiofrequency radiation that we know causes a variety of biological effects, and where we have very strong evidence that it causes disease, specifically brain cancer and other diseases.
There have now been more than 6,000 published scientific studies on the health effects of microwave radiation since the 1930s, and with the vast majority showing that there is some biological damage being done, the jury's no longer out on whether this is harmful. Even by 1972, we have the U.S. Navy producing an unclassified report of health effects on the human body observed from microwave radiation, summarizing more than 2,300 studies. 5 pages of observed human health effects in this report include headaches and insomnia.
I was walking by and I got like a flash headache. It's painful.
How many times did that happen?
Every time I walked by it, which was a bunch of times.
Vagomometic or irregular action of the heart.
They were installed in my house, and shortly after that, I started experiencing pretty significant heart palpitations.
Anxiety.
I was nervous a lot and I couldn't sleep.
Chest pains.
I started getting this intense chest pain.
And changes in the operation of implanted cardiac pacemakers.
Well, my heart would speed up to do about 170 beats a minute, and I could normally control any arrhythmia that I would have before just by meditation and relaxing. And the smart meter, I couldn't bring it down.
And you found that when you were in that electromagnetic field, your heart was going to high rates of arrhythmia.
Yes, and it wouldn't happen all the time. It happened the first time was 8 months after the meter was installed, and then the second time it occurred was 6 months after that, and then it went 4 months after that, and then went 2 months after that.
So you became more and more sensitive.
More sensitive as the time went by.
And you found that when you were able to remove the meter, that you did recover.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Another serious health complaint about these devices is what's known as dirty electricity, caused by the converter between DC and AC current. It appears that utilities do not wish this aspect of the health issue to become widely known.
I can't tell you how many people have called me who became dreadfully ill the minute one of those got put on their house. Dirty electricity is, the best synonym is electrical pollution. We understand air pollution. There's clean air, there's polluted air. There's clean electricity, and there's polluted electricity. Dirty electricity is the major pollutant that comes into your house on your wires, riding piggyback on the 60 cycle. The real evil about the smart meters is everybody gets one, the whole neighborhood. I mean, every house in a development, every apartment in a building has got one of these things. Each one's got a switching power supply in it, and they're all big generators of dirty electricity, and I'm certain it's the device that changes the AC to DC.
After having 12 upgraded meters installed on her bedroom wall, Rosa Perrick began experiencing headaches and insomnia.
I lived through Nazis, communist soldiers, Cossacks. Nobody damaged my health as much as smart meters did. This is supposed to be my golden years. Instead, these are my bloody years. You did not give me all option. When you came and installed, you did not give me option. I didn't have no option. You came after me. You deceived me. I have something to show you. This is I have no control when I'm going to bleed, when my nose is going to bleed. This is the blood from my nose. I cannot even sleep on my own bed anymore. I have to close the door to the bedroom and sleep on chairs in the living room or put the mattress down, sleeping bag on the floor.
Do you ever have nosebleeds away from your apartment?
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you coming.
Your time is up.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
We wanted to get an accurate reading to see just how much dirty electricity can be caused by a bank of smart meters and what it can do to living conditions. So we brought in technician Eric Windheim, and this is what we found.
We're here today testing for dirty electricity. The 60 cycle sine wave has been filtered out, so what we're looking at is just the dirty high frequency voltage transients coming in on the line. These are very hazardous to your health, and they create a huge electrostatic field charge inside your house, with all of your wiring being antenna and you being on the inside of this antenna cage. So let's plug this meter in and see what kind of a reading we get. We're seeing levels here at over 20,000. This one reads up to 2,000. This one reads up to 20,000. It's interesting to note that for safety reasons, anything over 50 is banned in certain countries around the world. When you get up to 75, I've been informed that the electricity goes internal to the human body. In this room here, we're over 20,000. This is a hazardous environment to live in.
I made a call to a government agency. I started to talk about the problems with the meters, and he was getting agitated, and he said,